Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back on the updates 1.89 dev server, and it's time to have a look at the Shturm-S, which is a new rank 6 battle rating 9.3 dune buggy with an 80 gem on top of it. That's pretty much all this thing is when it comes to what its functionality will be in War Thunder. You can see that it's sat here in the tree after the IT1 at 9.3, and the only real reason it is at 9.3 is because of the second upgrade of the 80 gem that it gets. Looking at the machine itself, one of the major flaws of it is the fact that it has no armor, but not enough of a powerful engine to be able to cope with that. What I mean by this is there's a lot of vehicles in game which don't have very good armor, but they make up for this by having a great engine, so you can use it to go into really sneaky places and either attack enemies or be able to sit in areas and scout, or get to areas quickly to catch out enemies. And the Shturm, even though it's fast, it doesn't have a fast enough engine to be able to do that, or fast enough acceleration, I should say. Looking at the general armor profile of the machine, you have access to about 7mm of armor, 14mm on the lower glacis, and the interesting part here is this part, right? So this is 14mm of armor, which is the general area where you're going to be shooting, because this only has 2 crew. So in realistic, you knock out one of these people, the driver or the commander, and this thing is dead. And so shooting at this 14mm panel, which, you only need 21, 22mm to pen, which should be your primary targets. Remember, it's a 9.3, so we're looking in the area of the XM1s, the MBT-70 with its 20mm, which pens 47. Now, that's probably an extreme example, so let's try something like the Abrams, right? So the Abrams, so with its 12.7, still pens 26 at maximum. So 50 cals can go through this machine and will go through it on a daily basis. Overall, the armor on this is absolutely awful, and the thickest that you have is at least where it should be, but it's not thick enough. This thing should easily get hull broken. If not, there is no justice in this world. The engine is mounted just behind the 2 crew members. It's the YAM, or the YAMZ 238V, 240 horsepower. It has a radiator next to it, and also the transmission is in the front right here. And so it does look really nice. It has a nice radio station. You can show the optics, an 8x zoom, which is wonderful. And also look at the rack of 80 gems at the back. This looks stunning. As I said before, one of the lovely things about War Thunder has always been its models. The models are top-notch, and the X-ray of these models are getting better and better, which is what we see here. So this is the ready rack of the 80 GMs, and the way that it works is you fire it off, the outer bit of the 80 gem falls over here, this crank arm here flips down, picks up an 80 gem, and then this rolls around to the next one, and so on and so forth. It's really cool. I'll show you the mechanism when we get into game. So, as I said before, this has 2 80 gems attached. It has the 9M120 and the 9M114. The 9M114 pens 560, 484, 279 respectively, and it also goes at 320 meters per second and has a semi-automatic guiding system, meaning that you control it using your mouse or, your controller. Then we have the 9M120. It's also semi-automatic. Is able to go the same speed, has exactly the same characteristics when it comes to explosive mass, and the only difference being that it is 800, 692, 399 millimeters. So this pens a hell of a lot more than the 114, and it's a direct upgrade over it. There is no reason to use the 114 over the 120 unless you are worried about 640 silver lions, which shouldn't be your biggest issue with this machine. What should be your biggest issue with this machine is the fact that you have no armor and not enough speed to back it up. So The main thing when we look at upgrades is obviously that 9M120, so you can much easier deal with some of the top tier tanks that you will face, and also the mobility upgrades, since the protection, well, it doesn't really matter. Another thing, if CAS ever gets near you, which obviously with the ADATS edition, the Tunguska for the Soviets, other nations getting specific vehicles, the CAS is going to be hard to come by unless, it's helicopters and they get lucky. You're looking at 7mm on top, so even if something near you sniffs you, you're gonna blow up. One of the biggest things that I've realized while using BMPs and also other IFVs is that artillery is incredibly deadly to the individual of these machines, and the Shturm looks like a prime artillery target, and that does not make me happy. It doesn't have enough armor to even stop that stuff. Talking about customization though, it does have some beautiful camouflages. One great thing about these high-tier Soviet machines is they have some great stuff. The tricolors and the desert camouflages, all of them are absolutely stunning, and a lot of them you can actually get in-game by grinding them out. You don't have to actually buy them, but there are some which you do have to buy. The Finnish one is always the best, just because of the tricolor nature. You have the dark green, light green, and black. It also means that you can blend in a lot more on forest maps, but there are some other ones. As I said, this one is also a personal favorite, even though I can understand that in Europe it probably doesn't work too well. Anyway, let's show you some of the characteristics of the Shturm, because it's incredibly important, first of all, with an ATGM launcher, to make sure that you know what speed it can go so you can launch the ATGM. So the highest speed that this thing can go to fire its ATGM is 10 kilometers an hour. So similar to the Bradley, so higher than the majority of things. If you have a look at the reverse speed on this, it is also 10 kilometers an hour. So technically you should be able to fire an ATGM while moving this, and you can. And you can see right here how the reload system works. So it goes down, it picks another one up, and then it just moves it over there and back up. So let's go through the process. You're aiming straight ahead, don't worry about the bug. You fire, it flops down. Okay, it didn't feel like flopping down that time. But let's try with a different one. Maybe if we go centralized. But the idea is, obviously, it has a few issues right now because it is the dev server. But it fires. I'm going to have to restart this because it's not going to work properly, is it, for me? Of course not. So it fires. It drops down, as you can see, like that. And then this, which isn't supposed to have the launcher on it, goes down, picks another one up, and picks it up. Now, as I said, it's obviously got a few bugs to it. There seems to be an issue with these style of reloaders where they have to be straight before they can reload. You see that, where you have a little bit of lag between it, which makes sense. It should be like that, but it means that your reload's going to be longer than you might be used to. Also, another thing is this does not aim where you're looking. So you can see here, I'm aiming at the cent and it's aiming up there. I can slowly bring it down if I want to, and then when I look up, it goes back up. I think this is just a problem with the indicator from here not being lined up with the center of the circle. And when you do fire, it does come down and, you can guide it to the target. And then it goes over here because obviously it's underneath. So that's where your center point is. It's really interesting. And also, of course, you can do that, which is a bit of a problem, but it's all right. It's not a big deal. So the aimer is a little bit off right now. It doesn't show exactly what it should. The actual axis that the missile is on itself, it can fire. I don't think it can go full 360. No, it can go. Well, let's say what's that? About 80 degrees to the right from center, and then the other way it can go the same. The aerial is in a wonderfully interesting place on the side. So you can see that it's about 80 degrees once again, and that's alright. And with the secondary upgraded ATGMs, which do not want to fire straight, they will be able to take out targets very easily around about 9.3, but once you go higher, then there is an issue. You can see you can see also a problem here, where this is something that I think it's just because the inside isn't modeled yet, or it isn't showing in the thing. But you see that hole where the driver's head's supposed to be. This is why it's very odd to me to think that this machine has 12 millimeters of armor there, or 22 millimeters, because of the fact that it's just a blank space. That literally should, unless that is closed, then I have no idea how the armor comes to be, unless it's somebody sticking their helmet there, you know? And, wait, what? Oh, yes, of course. So if you didn't know as well, this is kind of a nice little feature, and it will also be another feature that will screw this thing in the long run. So I've already talked about the issues that this thing has, but one of the things is, just like the Bradley, if you go a specific speed, and you know, you're going quickly, the ATGM puts itself away. Now, this is good thematically, this is good historically, and it should be in place. But it does mean that if you want to fire an ATGM quickly, like let's say, oh, there's a target over there, okay, turn, and then stop. Maybe you've got to battle a little bit to get into a better position so we can turn. Look how long it takes the ATGM to get into position. You see the problem here? Like, it takes so long for the ATGM to be able to get into position to fire that you end up with a situation that is not good for you. You know, it isn't a good situation to be in, because you're just waiting for the longest amount of time. So it's actually, even though speed, right, the speed is supposed to be its advantage, the issue you're going to have is you're going to use the speed, which isn't that fast compared to modern MBTs, may I just say. You're going to get to sneaky positions, and then instead of firing straight away, or instead of being able to use those sneaky positions for other things, you're just going to have to wait until the missile comes out, and then line up shots and then fire. It's a little bit odd that there's reverberation on the actual, you know, the shot itself, but, you know, it's not the end of the world, can be dealt with. So there's so much stuff working against this machine. It's very hard to work out how this is going to work at 9.3 unless, you know, a lot of the top tier tanks go up to that 10.7 bracket. Because you are going to deal with machines that are faster than you, they can machine gun you to death, and the majority of the time while you're moving, you will not have the opportunity to be able to hit them while they're running around with crazy stabilizers and you have hull break. It is a machine that makes literally no sense to me at 9.3, and I'm hoping it gets dropped lower, but even lower, I don't understand how this does well, unless they give it scouting. That is something I haven't talked about too much. If they give this thing scouting, you give it a purpose to exist. That's how I see, like, a lot of scouting for a lot of vehicles. If you give it scouting, it has a job now. And instead of the ATGM being the first job and only job, the scouting can also be, you know, a job. The ATGM is amazing on this, especially the upgraded one. Does a lot of damage. But the problem is, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you can't get that ATGM on target and to function properly, which is something this thing does not do well at all. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Martinez, Matity, Moxie, Nito, Nick Graham, Alobralo, Sebastian Corona, Super Cacti, and Elove Goats and Seductive Trashcan for supporting the channel.